There is a coffee tin on the back shelf, dented at the rim, and the lid has a slot cut into it with a knife. Inside, a few coins. Some weeks, nothing went in at all. A penny here, a nickel there. Sometimes a single dime that a man could have spent on bread and chose not to. And I am telling you that a tin like that one, costing nothing, holding almost nothing, was worth more to the families who kept it than any raise, any windfall, any clever scheme that ever came knocking on their door. I knew of a widow on the block who fed 7 children through a hard winter, and she never once borrowed from a bank, never once signed her name to a debt she could not see the bottom of. And habits no grander than that tin were the reason. Now hear me, because this matters. It is not a budget. It is not a coupon you clip from the Sunday paper. It is not some app that pings your telephone every time a can of beans goes on sale. It is not skipping your coffee and feeling sour about it all day. It does not require $1 extra coming through the door. It requires one decision, made one time, and then kept for the rest of your life. And here is the thing nobody teaches anymore. The thing I want you to sit with there is a plain reason this knowledge slipped away, a quiet reason. And it has nothing to do with you being careless and everything to do with who profits from your forgetting. Stay with me, because the tricks themselves are simple. A child could do them. The rule underneath them is the part they trained you out of, and that is what I am going to give you. Let me tell you who I am, so you know why I would bother. My name is Yosef Levy. I stood behind a small store counter for 50 years, in a neighborhood where most folks counted their money in coins and not in bills. And a counter like that one is a strange kind of school. You watch people. You watch them across decades. You watch the young couple who made good money and somehow never had any. And you watch the old woman who made almost nothing and was never once short. And after enough years, you stop wondering why. Because you start to see it plain. We had no savings account when I was a boy. We had no credit, no cushion, no rich uncle, no one to call when the month ran long. And let me tell you, plenty of months ran long. When the next month is already spoken for and there is no one to call, you learn very fast what a dollar is actually for. That pressure, the lean years, the scarcity my parents carried over an ocean, the fixed and frightened arithmetic of a household where one missed week meant real hunger. That pressure is the thing that forged every habit I am going to hand you. People did not save like this because they were virtuous. They saved like this because the alternative was the street. Now, before I show you the rest, I'll say this one time and then I'll let it lie. If anything I've handed you so far has the ring of truth to it, if it sounds like something your own grandmother knew in her hands, then do one small thing for me and subscribe. End quote. Because I put up one of these every week. Another old habit, another quiet rule that kept families whole when there was no cushion and no one to call. It costs you nothing. You won't even feel it leave your hand. I won't bring it up again in this video. Stay right here with me, because what comes next doesn't cost you a dime either. So here is where I have to stop you, because if you miss this next part, none of the 25 tricks will hold, and you will have wasted your time and mine. Now here is the part most folks get wrong. They think frugality means going without. They think it means a cold house and a thin plate and a small pinched life where every pleasure has been crossed off the list. That is exactly backwards, and the people who lived through real scarcity would laugh at you for thinking it. Thrift was never going without. Thrift was deciding once, when your stomach was full and your head was clear, so that you never had to decide again when you were tired and hungry and afraid. That is the whole secret, and the rest is just shape around it. The expensive decisions in a life are almost never the big ones. The big ones you think about. You agonize, you compare, you sleep on it. It is the small decisions, made 100 times a week in a fog, that drain a household dry. And the old habit was simply this: take those decisions out of the fog and settle them in advance. So let me give you the habit, step by step. And I want you to notice that under every single step, there is a reason. Because a step without a reason is just a chore you'll quit by Tuesday. First, you write it down. All of it. What comes in, what goes out, every leak, even the embarrassing ones, especially the embarrassing ones. And you do it because you cannot protect what you cannot see. Money that lives only in your head will slip through your fingers, and you will swear you never spent it. A notebook costs $1. The man who writes it down keeps more than the man who earns twice as much and never looks. Second, you keep the tin, and into the tin goes a little before it goes anywhere else, because you pay your own household first, before the landlord, before the catalog, before every cheerful voice that wants a piece of your check. Pay yourself first, and you learn to live on the rest. Pay yourself last, and there is never anything left, because there is always something waiting to eat the remainder. Third, you mend before you buy. A needle costs pennies. A spool of thread will outlive your interest in this video. The button sewn back on is a shirt you did not replace, and the small repair made today is the large purchase you do not make next month. Fourth, you buy whole and never portioned, because when you buy the thing cut up and packaged and arranged on a little tray, you are not paying for food. You are paying for somebody else's scissors and somebody else's plastic and somebody else's time, and that markup hides in plain sight on every shelf in the store. Fifth, you go to the market once, with a list, and you never go hungry, because a hungry man with no list is the most profitable customer ever to push a cart. And every store in this country is built around him. Sixth, you reuse the jar, the cloth, the cooking fat, the paper bag, the water, the vegetables boiled in, not out of some grim denial, but because each thing used twice is a thing bought half as often, and that quiet arithmetic, repeated across a year, is larger than any coupon you will ever clip. Now watch what happens when you put these together, because here is where it gets good. None of these tricks is impressive on its own. A penny in a tin, a button sewn, a jar washed and kept. You could not make a magazine cover out of any one of them. But that is exactly why they work, and here is the mechanism, plain as I can say it. Waste compounds. You have heard that interest compounds, that a debt left alone grows in the dark and swallows you well. Waste does the very same thing, only it runs in the other direction, quietly, every single day. A small leak in the hull, that no single bucket of water would ever sink you, but the steady drip surely will. The old families understood, without ever using the word, that they were fighting compounding with compounding. Every penny saved was not just a penny. It was a penny that never had to be borrowed, never grew teeth, never came back doubled. And that is why a household with almost nothing coming in could stay whole, while a household with plenty could drown because one was plugging the leaks and the other was bailing with a hole in the boat. Keep that in mind, because it matters for what comes next. Here is the question I planted at the start, and now I am going to answer it, because you have earned it. Why were the families who had the least so much better at keeping money than the families today who have so much more? Why was this knowledge, simple enough for a child, never handed to you? And here is what nobody teaches anymore. It was not hidden in a vault. There was no meeting in a back room. And I want to be honest with you about that, because I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. It is something quieter than a conspiracy, and quieter is worse, because you cannot fight a thing you cannot see. The old way, the tin, the mending, the jar kept and reused, The neighbor who lent you $5 and waved off the idea of charging you for it that old way made nobody any money. And a thing that makes nobody any money has no one to advertise it, no one to remind you of it, no one to put it on a billboard or whisper it in your ear 1,000 times a year. But every habit that replaced it has a champion with deep pockets. The needle and thread were replaced by the new shirt, and there is a profit in the new shirt. The tin where you paid yourself first was replaced by the credit card, where you pay someone else first and pay them interest for the privilege, and there is enormous profit in that interest. The jar you kept was replaced by the thing you throw away and buy again, and they planned it that way, built it to wear out, because there is no profit in a thing that lasts. The neighbor's free loan was replaced by the fee and the finance charge, and the cheerful advice that costs more than the help is worth. And the old free loan societies, and this is well documented, going back generations in immigrant neighborhoods, just like the one I grew up in, lent money to their own, at no interest at all, none, because the point was to keep a family standing, not to skim from a family falling. There is no profit in a family that wastes nothing. So nobody who profits has any reason to remind you. That is the whole of it. Not a cover-up, just silence, where the lesson used to be. Now, this is where it gets good, because once you understand the rule, you can scale it, and the one tin becomes a whole household running quiet and tight without you ever thinking about it again. The tin becomes a rhythm. One night a week, pick it, keep it. The old hands always had a night. You sit down and you write it all out, the writing night. And it takes 20 minutes, and it saves you 20 arguments. You keep a drawer for mending, so the needle is never a hunt. You keep a drawer for the stale bread, and I will get to what that drawer is worth another day, because it is worth more than you would believe. And above all, you keep one rule that beats every system anyone will ever sell you. Before any purchase that is not food or medicine or rent, you wait 1 week. 1 week. That is all. Most of what you would have bought, you will not want by Friday, and the wanting will have passed like weather, and the money will still be in the tin where it belongs. Now I have to be honest with you, the way my own conscience requires, because anyone who only tells you the good parts is selling you something. Let me debunk one on our own side, one that the thrifty love and that I have watched cost people dearly. Chasing every sale, clipping every coupon, driving across town to save 30 cents on a can that is not thrift, that is a job that pays you backwards. You spend an hour and a tank of gas to save a quarter, and worse, you come home with 4 things you never meant to buy because the sale put you in a buying mind. A false economy. The store knows exactly what the word sale does to a tired person, and the truly frugal are not the ones with the fattest coupon folder. They are the ones who simply buy less and walk past more. And let me admit the honest limit, because it is real, and I will not paper over it. None of this fixes an income that genuinely does not cover the basics. If the rent alone eats the whole check, no tin will save you, and a man who tells you otherwise is lying to your face. These habits protect what you have. They cannot conjure what was never there. They give you dignity and a little room to breathe, and a wall between you and the next bad month, and that is enormous. But it is not magic, and I will not sell you magic. And here is the one caution I refuse to skip, because I have seen it go wrong. Never, ever cut the corner that costs you your health or your safety to save a few coins. The cheap repair on the thing that holds a flame. The medicine skipped to keep the money in the tin. The food spoiled past saving, eaten anyway out of pride. That is not thrift. That is a debt you are taking out against your own body, and the interest on that one is cruel. Save on the shirt. Never save on the smoke alarm. I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me, and that means telling you where the line is. So let me pull back now, all the way back, because the tin was never really about the tin. It was about a way of standing in the world. Comfort is not security. You can be very comfortable in one bad month from ruin, and most people are. Convenience is not freedom. Every convenience they sell you is a small string tied to your wrist, and enough small strings will hold a grown man still. And looking prosperous is not being unreachable. The family with the new everything and nothing in the tin is far more frightened in the quiet of the night than the family with the old everything and the tin half full, because one of them can weather a storm and the other one is the storm waiting to happen. Here is what to do, and it costs you under $1 to begin tomorrow. Write it down so you can see it. Pay your own household first into something you do not touch. Mend before you buy. Buy whole instead of portioned, and shop once with a list and a full stomach. Wait 1 week before anything you do not truly need. Reuse the thing before you replace it. That is the entire method. And the honest total is not a number I can print on a screen, because it is different for every household. But I have watched it be the difference between a family that frays and a family that holds. And there is no figure large enough to put on that. What you keep has always mattered more than what you earn. The old people knew it in their hands before they ever knew it in words, and they passed it down the only way wisdom ever travels, quietly, from one careful pair of hands to the next, until somewhere along the line the chain went silent, and a generation grew up without it. You can be the one who picks it back up. You can be the link that holds. Start with the tin tonight, with whatever you have, even if it is 37 cents, because the amount was never the point. The deciding was the point, the keeping was the point, the standing on your own 2 feet with a little wall between you and the cold was always the point. So tell me down in the comments, what is the one thing your mother or your grandmother never ever threw away, the thing you laughed at once and understand now? I read them, and I learn from you as much as you learn from me. And next time I am going to open that stale bread drawer I mentioned, because there is an old habit in there that fed a family for a week on what most people scrape into the bin without a second thought. And once you see how it was done, you will never look at a hard heel of bread the same way again. Until then, keep more than you spend, mend more than you toss, and remember, what you keep has always mattered more than what you earn.